Good morning. We will continue the autonomic function test, of which heart rate variability analysis is a very important test system, which is receiving a lot of attention for the past 20 to 30 years. Even today, there are a lot of work that is going on in improving the working with heart rate variability analysis. Now, before we go for the heart rate variability analysis and define what is heart rate variability, let us see what is respiratory sinus arrhythmia. Respiratory sinus arrhythmia, as it indicates, it is very much related with the respiration and respiratory cycles. Now, what is the sinus representing? This is representing the sinoatrial node, so which is the pacemaker of the heart. Now, arrhythmia refers to abnormal rhythm or lack of regular rhythm. That means the rhythm is not the same through and through. It is varying. So then you call it as arrhythmia. Sinus arrhythmia is has the origin from the sinus or SNO. And this is seen in relation to the respiratory cycles. So if you see here, breathing is recorded. Inspiration is regarded as a downward stroke, and expiration is upward recorded. So this is the expiratory part. This is the inspiratory part. So correspondingly, you can see the heart rate graph that is occurring here. And in relation to this respiratory cycle, you can see that the heart rates are varying. Heart rates may be going up during inspiration, or heart rates are becoming less during the expiratory phase. So, essentially, this is what is the heart rate variability. Now, if you look at this picture, it is the ECG, and this is the QRS wave. R is the very prominent, and it has the very short peak as well, so that you can measure the RR intervals very easily. You know where to start clearly and where the ending is for the cardiac cycle. And here you can see RR1. The respiratory the RR interval, first RR interval, second RR interval, third RR interval. And here below is the pulse. You can see, which reflects the contractions of the heart. So here, the RR interval varies, so is the cardiac cycle duration. So with the lesser or smaller RR interval, you see that rate is more, because the cardiac cycle is over quickly. So the rate is over, the rate is more. So when the RR interval is longer, then the rate is slow. Heart rate is slow. So the RR interval are the heart rate figures. They reflect the same thing. They're nearly one and the same. Either you talk in terms of the heart rates or the RR intervals. Because the R to R is very clear, usually we use this RR interval. So this is about the variation that you can see in the heart rates or the duration of the RR intervals. Now, heart rate variability is the degree of fluctuation in the length of the intervals between heartbeats. So you can see the fluctuation. This is long, this is short. So that's what is fluctuation of the length of the interval or RR intervals. So that's what is between the heartbeats. So you can also see here a long strip of ECG and also the tachogram, which is plotting the RR interval, the milliseconds in milliseconds. So this RR interval is represented in terms of milliseconds as a vertical straight line, and the tops are connected. So with the way, and this RR interval refers to this particular QRS complex. So the cardiac cycle belonging to this particular ECG wave and the RR interval, they correspond. So this RR interval corresponds to this QRS complex, and this will correspond to this QRS complex. Now, so you can see the heights of the RR intervals or the length of the RR intervals are varying according to the RR interval. The cardiac beat to beat variation of the cardiac cycle length occurs mainly during the respiratory cycle, which we have already mentioned and shown one diagram in the beginning. So that's what is respiratory sinus arrhythmia at rest. Now, not only the respiratory sinus arrhythmia is the cause for this type of variation, though this is the main one. You have other factors also, which are circadian rhythms. That means day and night cycles. Then basic rest and activity cycles. Now, what is this basic rest activity? Our body is in a kind of rest for some time and then activity for some time. So the activity levels will vary for more activity and less activity. And that is also cyclical. You can see this basic rest activity cycle very clearly in a baby. A baby is awake for some short period and then it sleeps. When it is awake, it drinks the milk, etc. They may play for a while and then it sleeps. So that is the rest is sleep, activity is when it is awake. This usually is about 90 minutes plus or minus. Then environmental factors also will affect the heart rate variability. Resting heart rates so varies from 60 to 100 beats per minute. This figure need not be the same for every individual. Within this range, the variations will occur normally in an individual. Heart rate depends upon the pacemaker activity of the SCA node, as you know. We have shown which is the pacemaker of the heart, how the cardiac impulse travels from the SCA node to the rest of the tissues, etc. in earlier classes during CVS chapter. So, heart rate depends upon the pacemaker activity of the SCA node, and this in turn is influenced by the autonomic nervous system. Whenever we say autonomic nervous system, we are talking both about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. And this one during rest particularly is largely controlled by the parasympathetic tone or what we call vagal tone. Rather, we usually say the heart rate variability during rest is essentially a parasympathetic phenomena. Essentially, we cannot rule out sympathetic activity changes, but they are relatively minor during the rest. Heart rate variability is most sensitive indicator of autonomic nervous system function, especially for the sympathovagal balance. Then this is used very effectively for the prediction of many cardiovascular dysfunctions, diagnosis, and management of the cardiovascular disease. So these days, the HRV is often used for assessing the cardiovascular functions. HRV analysis, or heart rate variability analysis. So for this analysis, ECG is generally recorded by using lead 2, where the QRS is quite prominent. Then record for a short term heart rate variability, you use a duration of 0.5 to 5 minutes. Generally, we want at least a 5-minute record of short term for analysis purpose. For the long term HRV, we would need about 24 hours a day and night recording, and that is done continuously. So you record ECG continuously for about 1 day and a night continuously for long-term analysis. The RR intervals are measured from the ECG, and that forms the basis for all further analysis. So RR intervals are the basis for all the rest of the analysis. Calculations of indices from an array of RR intervals are based on statistical operations or spectral analysis. So, let's say in a group, in a series of RR intervals, the calculation of indices are categorized in terms of statistical operation or spectral analysis. So, they are essentially depending on the statistical operation, then you call them time domain analysis. This is relatively easy, and anybody can, most of us can do the calculations by looking at the definition of the index, each index. But then when you come to the spectral analysis of frequency domain, or the frequency related activity, then generally you need software. Well, this is quite complicated. Uses fast Fourier analysis or fast Fourier transform. Now, the simple time domain variables are mean NN interval, mean heart rate, and then difference between the longest and shortest NN interval. Now, if you see this NN, this is referring to normal beat. Normal to normal beat are essentially R to R interval, essentially. So, though the labeling is slightly different, we don't call it RR interval now. RR interval as far as it is in the ECG. Here, we call it as normal to normal beat interval. Now, why it is normal? Because in the record, all beats may not be normal. So here you use those beats which are actually coming from the SCA node, and that's what happens ordinarily. So NN interval refers to, in other words, RR interval of the ECG. Mean heart rate. So from this RR interval or NN interval, you can get the heart rate. And the heart rate is derived from the NN intervals here. And that is because of the vagal tone. Vagal tone is the one which regulates the resting heart rate. More vagal tone decreases the heart rate. That's how you will find in athletes, vagal tone is higher and heart rate is slower. Difference between the longest and shortest NN interval, that is a good indicator of the heart rate variability strength. What is variable? Heart rate is varying from one beat to another. That's it. So, what is the longest beat and what is the shortest beat? The difference is the variability. So this difference will indicate very nicely about the HRV strength, the strength of the HR. If the HR is strong, that means if this difference is big, then health is good. Cardiovascular health is good. If it is less, cardiovascular health is not so good and poor. Then difference between night and day heart rates are also used. When heart rate tachograms are plotted, we have already seen one tachogram already in the beginning. So here, heart rate tachograms will visually show you that variability is occurring. Visually, you can make it out. And as we said, the number 2, mean heart rate, is reflecting the vagal parasympathetic tone, so it is important. And then the 3, the difference between the longest and shortest interval, that is indicating the HRV strength. So this is where these are very important parameters, though they're very simple. Now, short-term and long-term variability. Here, short-term variability indices represent fast changes in the heart rate. That means the changes at the wave is occurring fast. That means the duration of the wave is small. That means short-term variability. Then this usually standard deviation of beat to beat RR intervals differences. So something like this, they belong to short-term variability. Now here, RR interval is one thing that is very fine. There is a wave pattern there, which is essentially long-term variability. And long-term variability indices are of slower fluctuations. You know, if the heart rate is about 60, one cardiac cycle on an average will last for about 1 second. Okay, 1 second. That is very slow. Now, if you look at the standard deviation of the beat to beat RR interval, that is the difference between one beat to another beat's RR intervals or NM intervals, and take the standard deviation, that shows a quick change. So that is the short term, and this is long term because it is slow fluctuation. So standard deviation of all the RR intervals belong to this category. Difference between maximum and minimum RR interval lengths. This is also very short. Here, this is in between the successive RR intervals. Here, a maximum and minimum. The difference between the maximum and minimum RR intervals is taken. So these two are different. Short-term, long-term variability. Short-term variability, its contribution is by respiratory sensitivity. Then long-term variability contribution is by baroreceptor reflex mechanism and also thermoregulation related heart rate variability. Now, measures of by statistical method. So here, earlier we mentioned here, there are two ways of operation, statistical, spectrum. So statistical operations will give the time domain parameters. Spectral analysis will give frequency related indices. So first we see the statistical method measures. Usually from longer record of ECG, traditionally 24 hours, you can also use smaller segments for recording, or you can take a segment of the whole record also and use for analysis. So more complex statistical domain measures can be calculated. We have already seen the 3 time domain parameters, but here now we are going to see a little more complex, which are calculated by using statistical methods. Now, those derived from NN interval are those derived from the difference between n and interval. That means here you simply take the n intervals are instantaneous heart rate, which also we have mentioned in the beginning. What is this instantaneous heart rate? How do you get heart rate for a single beat? You can. If you see here, for one single beat, these are our intervals, and this is the QS complex. So this will give you the duration and the rate for the beat generated by this. So you can get the instantaneous heart rate for each one of the heartbeat. So here, the more complex textual domain measures can be calculated, and you can see those derived from the NN intervals, which I have just shown you. And there is a difference between each successive interval. Those derived from difference between the NN intervals. These are the two ways you can use the recorded ECG. So the common measures are RMSSD. I'll tell you what do they mean. RMSSD, NN50, or NN50 count, and PNN50. Others are SDNN, SDANN, SDNN index, SDSD. So we'll see each of them. SDNN, of course, is measured in milliseconds with the standard deviation of NN intervals. Simple. You have a series of intervals. When you take the mean, as you take the mean, also you can calculate standard deviation, and that standard deviation of NN is this. And and flows, increase and decrease of all factors that contribute to the heart rate variability during a 24 hours recording. So here, this depends upon how the heart rate variability is occurring about 24 hours and how it is increasing or decreasing. Then, including the slow oscillations, which are believed to reflect the heart's intrinsic ability to respond to hormonal influences. This means hormonal influences are not quick. Hormonal secretions are also slow. The way the influence is slow, but the influence will last longer. And so these changes are slow changes. So you have slow oscillations and also fast oscillations due to the sinus arrhythmia. So SDANN. So this is also measured in milliseconds. Standard deviation of the averages of intervals in all 5-minute segments of the entire record. What this means is that in the record made for 24 hours, we have several 5-minute segments. We have several 5-minute segments. Now, for each segment, you take the NN intervals, average them, and you take that average, you take the standard deviation of these averages. So you have so many 5-minute segments, so you have a large number of averages. So you can have a standard deviation for this averages of NN intervals over a period of 5-minute segments for each interval. So such intervals will be many. So this is also a time domain parameter. Okay, it shall be. Then here, RMSSD. SD is standard deviation, no problem. RMS, this is what is important for you to understand clearly. R is root square or square root. Square root or root square. R is referring to the root square. And of the mean of the sum of the squares. Sum of the squares. These squares For what? These are the squares referring to the differences of successive NN intervals. So if you are coming back, you have NN intervals, and successive NN intervals means the difference between two successive NN intervals. This is taken and then is squared, add it up, add the squares, take the mean, then take the square root. So if you go back, you see the differences between the successive NN intervals are first obtained. Then the squares are there, the squares are calculated. Sum the squares of these differences. This sum, now several sums are there, so you have mean of them. So if you have that one mean, take the square root here again, that you get the RMS SD. Here you have squared it and you have got it back here. This measure estimates high frequency variations in heart rate from short-term NN recording that reflects an estimate of parasympathetic regulation of the heart. We also earlier said the changes of high frequency changes are because of the parasympathetic. RMS SD is measured in milliseconds and it reflects the sympathetic activity. Now, SDNN index. SDNN index is the mean of the standard deviations of all the normal RR intervals for all 5-minute segments of the entire 24 hours ECG. So similarly, you get an index, and the index is believed to be a measure of primarily autonomic influence as a whole. Now here you simply are taking from the large recording, you have several 5-minute interval segments, and you take the RR intervals for each of these segments, normal RR intervals for all of this, and then you get the standard deviation and take the mean. Simply straightforward. So this is an autonomic influence, a reflection of the autonomic influence, which means sympathetic as well as parasympathetic. SDSD. SDSD is the standard deviation of differences between adjacent NN intervals. So you got the NN intervals for the adjacent intervals. The difference between adjacent intervals are taken. Then standard deviation for this difference is SDSD. Now that is measured in milliseconds. Is a time domain measure of the heart rate variability again. NN50 count. You count something. What is this 50? 50 is milliseconds, represents milliseconds, 50 milliseconds. Now, over the entire recording, would be 5 minutes or 24 hours recording. Essentially, it should be a long-term record. Then you find out where the intervals differ by 50 milliseconds or more, where the intervals, each of these NN intervals differ by more than 50 milliseconds. Okay, so, and the adjacent intervals should differ by more than 50 milliseconds. So, such a number of pairs are counted. Such pairs are counted. That is NN50 count. N to N, which are showing more than 50 milliseconds of the difference between intervals are counted. P NN50. Here is the percentage is calculated. NN50 count is divided by the total number of NN intervals, and the percentage is calculated. That's all. It is like more or less like a standardization. All these measurements of short-term variations estimate high frequency variations of the heart rate, and they are highly correlated. Now, other way, you also can use geometrical methods. Geometrical methods if you plot the sample density distribution, in statistics, usually you see a bell-shaped graph for the distributions, which is described in the beginning of teaching statistics, usually. Okay, so here, that instead of bell, you are calling a triangle shape. So base and an increase and decrease. Okay, bell-shaped distribution or a triangular shaped distribution of the sample density. Now, sample density distribution difference between adjacent NN intervals. So, you need the NN intervals and the difference between adjacent intervals calculated, and then their distribution, also their distribution of their sample density distribution also are analyzed geometrically. Whether you do the NN intervals directly or the difference between NN intervals can be taken and sample density distribution can be plotted. HRV is judged by the pattern of geometric or graphic properties of the resulting pattern, usually a triangle shape. So HRV triangle index is the integral of the density distribution. That means number of all NN intervals divided by the maximum of the density distribution. Maximum of the density distribution. We said at one area, the distribution is maximum. So total number divided by the maximum density distribution. Now we come to the spectral analysis of the frequency domain. So here we are essentially dealing with the frequency. Look at this diagram. You can see the frequencies are different. Frequencies are different. They can be superimposed. And that's the kind of change that you usually see. They are integrated. They mix with each other and produce another kind of a graph. So this thing contains all these varieties of frequencies. Okay, now the frequency domain analysis separates them and analyzes. In this time domain analysis and frequency domain analysis, in the time domain analysis we have already seen. We have been calculating statistically from using the various times or something related with the duration. Now we come to the power spectrum related to the frequencies and power spectral density analysis. Now, if you look at this graph recording, you can see the way there are. So this is one frequency, and each one has a different. Each one has a different frequency here, and then this is another frequency, and of course it's altogether a different frequency. Okay, and you can see another frequency here. Okay. Now each wave is also will tell you a frequency. Okay, now this is high frequency area, and this is low frequency area. So if you see this B graph, HRV diagram, which every frequency wave from the low to high frequency is fixed. You find them all embedded in it. Now, if you filter high frequency power, then you get only low frequency. So, what are you filtering? High frequency. These are the high frequency. So, high frequency waves are all filtered. So, you get the slow waves, and of course, this is a fine slow wave, and then followed by this. So, you get so low frequency wave. Only low frequency wave remain like in graph C. So this is graph C. Now, in the graph D, you have filtered the low power, filtered the low power. Only remained is high frequency. So you see the high frequency is remaining and low frequency is filtered. Now this, by the past Fourier transform, you can plot according to the frequency and the density at each of these frequencies. From say about say 0.15 to 0.4 is the high frequency. You have frequencies here also, but very small. This is the main region where you have. So, but though whatever, these are all fast frequencies. 0.2 to 0.4 is considered 0.1, 0.15 to 0.4. You have high frequencies. So you have the sample density distribution, and this is peak, and this is the peak, and then this peak for the lower frequencies here, and then very low frequencies here, very low frequencies. From the long record as the 24 hours recording of ECG, you can also have a ultra low frequency also, ultra low frequency also. So low frequency is here, very low frequency is here, and before that is the ultra low frequency, which is only possible to get it in the 24 using a 24 hours recording of ECG. Now, this is the most simplified diagram of the power spectrum. Now, if you see the whole thing here, if you calculate the area, okay, that gives the total power spectrum, and in which we have very low frequency, and high frequency. Generally, in this, instead of 0.15, he marked from 0.2 to 0.4 as the high frequency, and here less than 0.1, say 0.05, and hertz onwards up to 0.2 is low frequency, less than 0.05 is very low frequency, as a very low frequency. Now, if you see distribution of the very low frequency, and high frequency in HRV power spectrum is here, and see in this picture the total power, as we said, all this thing put together is the total power, is 920 square milliseconds. Of this, very low frequency spectrum is 70 square milliseconds. So this yellow area is 70 milliseconds for the very low frequency. And then for low frequency it is about 500 milliseconds, 500 millisecond squares. Then high frequency is 350 square milliseconds. So this way you are quantifying the spectral density of high frequency, low frequency, and very low frequency areas of the power spectrum. And the large TP at the total power would reflect large heart rate variable strength. And these ones reflect essentially the parasympathetic and sympathetic activities. Now, the various frequency domain measures of heart rate variabilities are total power. If you are taking a record for 5 minutes, you can still get the total power. So, description analysis of short-term recordings for 5 minutes, variance of NN intervals over the temporal segment. Whatever segment that you have taken, segment of ECG you have taken, then variance of NN intervals will be put together. This power will talk about this. variance in the N1 equivalence over that particular segment. And this is the whole thing is last from here to here is 0.4 Hertz. Then very low frequency. Naturally, here frequency is very small, 0 to 0.04 Hertz. So power in the very low frequency range of this is called very low frequency. Low frequency, the power is 0.04 to 0.15. And another thing, high frequency, the frequency is from 0.15 to 0.4 Hertz. So sometimes it is given 0.2 or 0.15, either of that. Okay. So now this is about the high frequency. Now below this LF you have another index, LF norm, represented by the unit NU, normalized unit, normalized. Now what is this normalizing? LF power in normalized units is obtained by low frequency that you have measured, divided by total power minus very low frequency. So you are considering this area. Okay, so this area by all of this area. You are remembering very low frequency. Here. And similarly, HF norm, high frequency norm, or HFNU is the normalized unit for HFNU is the high frequency divided by total power minus VLF. So here also VLF is removed. So this is the total power used, and then HF over this total power except this. So that's about the normalization. These are, then you will be able to compare in between various situations, different recordings and different individuals about the HR. Then ratio, LF by HF, low frequency by high frequency ratio. So LF square milliseconds, LF by HF again square milliseconds. Then high frequency component of HRV refers to the cardiac valve. Then we mentioned this earlier also. Increased HF and HFNU, normalized unit, they both say increased vagal tone if these values are increased. And vice versa, if the HF or HFNU are decreased, vagal tone is decreased, which is a poor, which indicates poor seriousness. Then effect of vagal stimulation is rapid. Because of this, you have high frequency components affected. Okay, so as the vagal stimulation is rapid, and then so is the other components affected are essentially high frequencies. Then low frequency component of HRV essentially is for the cardiac sympathetic drive. Here it is the parasympathetic drive of the heart. Here this sympathetic drive of the heart for the low frequency. Increased low frequency or LFNU represents increased sympathetic drive, and vice versa. Vice versa means if it is if the LF or LFNU is decreased, that means the sympathetic drive is less. Sympathetic effects are more slow and responses have longer latency. This is also because sympathetic effects are produced by sympathetic neurons as well as the adrenal medullary adrenergic hormones. So hormonal effects are slow. Then hence low frequency components are affected. Then that indicates sympathetic effect. So if low frequency or high frequency changes will occur with parasympathetic. Low frequency changes occur with sympathetic. This is because parasympathetic vagal stimulation is quick, rapid, and here sympathetic and exergic hormones are slow. Now, sympathovagal balance. Now, when we dealt about the autonomic nervous system, we saw that the effects of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic system almost are opposite to one another. So if the sympathetic activity is more, let's say heart rate decreases. Yes. Right. If the vagal stimulation occurs, heart rate decreases. So it is just opposite effects. So either changes can be due to this or both. But when we say during resting condition, the vagal tone is the one which is actually deciding the heart rate. Okay. High frequency component of the HRV, cardiac vagal tone. We have already seen this. And LF component HRV refers to sympathetic drive of the heart. Sympathetic effects are more slow, and so you have responses also longer latency. Yeah, all right. If you look at here, if the sympathetic parasympathetic stimulation is given, then you see the high frequency part. You have the power of the spectrum increased, and this is the low frequency. So you can read this very carefully. If you read this, very low frequency is pink, and this greenish pale green is the high frequency. Now, or if you look at these numbers, also you will understand. As you go up, frequency is more. Here it is less. Frequency is faster here. These are the hertz. So the frequency is slow here. Frequency is more here. Then you can see parasympathetic stimulation increases the high frequency part of the spectrum. You can see how the peak has emerged, and hardly there is a change here. And then if you stimulate the sympathetic to the heart rate, sympathetic nerves to the heart, then heart rate will give a increase in the low frequency area. So the peak of the power spectrum is more in the low frequency zone. This is the parasympathetic effect. This is the sympathetic effect. You can see them separately. If you want to assess only parasympathetic, you use this part. If you want exclusively sympathetic change, you use this part. So this is about the heart rate variability and frequency analysis. Clinical applications. Total power indicates the magnitude of HRV. We have mentioned this. So higher the HRV, higher the variability, more is the total power. Decreased total power is not a good. Decreased vagal modulation indicates future cardiovascular morbidities and mortality, and also poor prognosis. So a higher total power is a good thing. That means bigger HRV strength. And low HRV, risk of sudden cardiac death. So if the TP is very low, then you find it's possible to get a sudden cardiac death. Heart rate variability is a sensitive tool for the prediction of the cardiovascular disease before the symptoms appear. So even before the appearing of symptoms, cardiovascular symptoms, HRV is changed. Now, I'll give you one simple example. HR will be much less strength. HR will be of much less strength in my case. So naturally, my cardiovascular health will be poor compared to a young person where the TP or the HRV is big. Cardiovascular health is generally bigger, higher. Good. So you can use higher HRV as a sensitive tool for prediction of the cardiovascular diseases. Even before the appearance of symptoms is a very good something, because you don't have to wait until there is a heart attack. HRV is used as a prognostics tool in conditions such as post-myocardial infarction and cardiac transplantation. So it can also give a good assessment of how things are improved. And tool for assessing vagal tone and the sympathetic drive and autonomic levels. This will be a good thing for the research people, particularly, used to determine the individual's susceptibility to developing autonomic dysfunction in conditions like pre-hypertension and hypertension. Okay, pre-hypertension is on the borderline. So it says, yes, you are going to get hypertension. Yes, eventually. Okay, presently, clinical applicability is limited for the lack of established normative data of heart rate variability. Normative data means to say, when you do a test, you also should be knowing what is the normal. So you can make a comparison and say, yes, HRV is more or less, increased or decreased, whether it is bad for the heart or good for the heart, etc. So normative data is difficult to come through because mathematical comprehensibility is very demanding. And if you have seen, I have rather avoided this demand. I made it as simple as possible by avoiding all the mathematical calculations which are beyond me. Then observed improvement in heart rate variability and CV cardiovascular health is observed with exercise, yoga practices, meditation, relaxation procedures, etc. So even after all this performed for a long period, for some period or long periods, you find HRV is good, HRV is high. And simultaneously, you will also see galvanic skin resistance is more. Galvanic skin resistance is more, which also say the parasympathetic activity is better in these people. And they are the healthy people. So that's where we end this lecture today. So we have done a series of autonomic function tests in the first lecture, and in today's second lecture, we have dealt with heart rate variability analysis, where we had essentially time domain analysis and frequency domain analysis. Geometrical methods also, to some extent, we have mentioned, but they give a picture type representation, which are good visually. If you look at the visually, yes, the picture like geometric pattern will give you an idea of what is happening. Thank you. So this is the end of the class today. Thank you very much.